It's time!
What's kicking, everybody? We are back for another episode of Pickin Fights. Keith, joined as always by my friend Tom. Tom, how are you today, friend?
Don't mind me just tweeting out that we are live now. Special Monday morning, 8 a.m. edition of Pickin Fights. UFC Fight Night. Derrick Lewis taking on Sergey Spivak in the main event coming up this weekend. But we would be remiss if we didn't at least mention all of the hubbub and craziness that went on with UFC 281 main event. We have a new middleweight champion. You and I both picked it. Admittedly, it wasn't looking like it was going our way for the majority of the fight. I wouldn't say that. You know, Potam, he looked good in that first round, and I can't remember if it was the end of the first round or end of the second round where Izzy really caught him, and he was saved by the bell a little bit. It looked like he was almost out on his feet, especially going back to his stool and the way he was standing there. But the dude is so stoic. You never know what he's thinking or how he's feeling. I mean, the only time I've ever seen him show any emotion was when he kicked that soccer ball and then was able to put the bow right through it with archery. Then he gave a nice little I did it. And then
there was that. And then there was I've seen him smile now twice. There was that, and then there was after the fight, he's eating a slice of pepperoni pizza while Megan Olivi is interviewing him, and Glover Teixeira comes up and whispers something in his ear in Portuguese, and he cracked a smile. But
come on, that's Glover Teixeira. If Glover Teixeira looks your way and smiles and says something positive, there's no way you're not going to smile back. I mean, I guess in UFC terms, he's the grandpa of the UFC.
Or like the dad. Yeah, he's just like or you know what? He's like the cool uncle of the UFC that like you love having around because he's always happy and jolly and successful and. Super great addition to Pereira's corner too. You know, I mean, he had that one round. I think it was like the third where he struggled on the ground against Izzy. And side note, a lot of people were saying Izzy wasn't going to take Pereira down, but he did. He had a whole round of ground control against Alex. But you know what's interesting now? There was definitely an argument that maybe it was like 4-0 or 3-1 for Izzy going into that fifth round. And this now makes twice this year. I'm sorry, 3 times. ESPN said twice. I say 3 times that we've had a fifth round upset in a championship fight where the challenger's been down a couple of rounds and won with a crazy finish in the final round. Everybody knows Leon did it. Now Alex. And the one that I don't think is getting enough credit from a lot of the pundits is Yuri Prochazka versus Glover Teixeira with that fifth round rear naked choke where he didn't even have his hooks in. But, this has been an exciting year for championship fights. And it really goes to show that anything could happen because we've now had 2 of these guys that looked unbeatable by the rest of their division. And 2 challengers came in and walked away with fifth round knockouts, fifth round finish, 3 of them. And I mean, anybody can lose in this sport. That's the best part about it. And I know we felt pretty damn smart walking away with that Alex Pereira pick as well.
Yeah, I mean, we felt super smart, but it's not like I felt super confident in the pick, right? Like, going into it, knowing like, hey, anything could definitely happen in this fight. And you're looking at a guy with much broader MMA experience, especially, the champion at Izzy. But something interesting about your point is, I think that Glover and Yuri fight doesn't get a lot of notoriety, and it's not thought of in the same way as these because the champion was kind of supposed to lose theoretically in that one. Yuri Prochazka, everyone was afraid of him. He was the boogeyman. He was the one that everyone was going to think cruise to a victory. Izzy and Alex, not as much. There was definitely some hot debate, but there's a lot of people, a lot of intelligent people who thought that Izzy, with his wealth of MMA experience, was going to come to a fairly easy victory over the much less experienced Pereira. And either way, I thought it was really telling when Izzy did go for the takedown and kind of kept control because, I mean, either way, I don't think it was a dumb move. But in a fight that's really close, and Izzy may think it was closer than it was, or maybe he thought it wasn't, but him going for the takedown proved that he's like, hey, this is at least close enough to where I need to bank some control time.
Right.
Because there's not necessarily one thing happening one way or the other. I mean, I think whatever the round was where he finished, where he stunned Alex, I think was his round, and then definitely that ground control round in the third, and then the other, I think the fourth, largely nothing happened. And I think a lot of judges, especially in New York, would probably tend to side with Izzy. And I don't know if you heard what Dana White said or not, but after the fight, he went to like his post game conference, and he was saying that he saw what Pereira's corner was like saying to him, so he put the headset on, and they were like, "You're losing this round. You're down. You're gonna be a champion. You have to knock him out. You have to throw punches and bunches. You have to throw combinations. Go after him. You were gonna be a champion in 5 minutes." And he goes out there 3 minutes later, and he becomes the champion. And of course, you know,
Yeah. No, that was some movie shit, man. That's again now twice.
and the same thing with Leon.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's now twice this year that we've had incredible fifth round, going into there. Oh my God, that Leon one was so, don't let him bully your son. That one was awesome. But this one was great too. He's like, you have to knock him out. You're losing this fight. That was like some Rocky, that was incredible.
That goes to show how important and how critical is your corner man, is those speeches to your success. And not to kind of get off topic, I'm a Raider fan, and it's increasingly more difficult this season. Josh McDaniels has this big mo ego about him that, like, hey, listen, you're professionals, you shouldn't have to need that extra confidence boost in order to go out there. You shouldn't need to be pumped up. This is your profession. You're all phenomenal players. And it just goes to show you that even at that level where maybe you shouldn't need it, why would you not also want that extra motivating factor behind you? I don't understand the reason behind not wanting to motivate your guys and say, well, they just should be like that. I mean, maybe Bill Belichick can, because he's got this huge pedigree of winning behind him, and people automatically buy in. But Josh is not him. And as we're seeing in the UFC and in sports in general, sometimes you need that extra oomph, that pregame speech, that flash of reality, that movie magic to go out there and really finish it and get it done. The Raiders have lost, I think it's now six games, 7 games. They have 7 losses. 6 of them were one-score games that they had an opportunity to win. So I digress on that, but yeah, really, how important are these cornerman and their speeches?
100% with you, because at the end of the day, you think about it, these sports are meant to simulate combat, battle, war in some cases. Like, honestly, football in its origin, it's a game of land control. It's meant to simulate war. There's you have your tanks up front. It's that's the origin behind the game. And so going into combat, yeah, you need somebody to hype you up sometimes. Not all the time, but especially when it's so close. And it could be scary. You're hitting people. People are hitting you. So it's definitely needed, I think, for a lot of people. And even if it's not needed, sometimes, if you don't feel like you're in one of those scenarios where it's like, all right, I got this, I can coast a little bit, whatever. And then somebody gets in your ear and they're like, you got this, don't give up, whatever. You got to knock them out. And they hype you up. Then that extra bit of adrenaline, definitely, it seems to kick in for a lot of people. But you brought up an interesting point, and I kind of want to transition over using that. You brought up the fact that Izzy took down Pereira. There was another takedown, a little bit controversial from Saturday night, and that was the takedown of Michael Chandler taking down Dustin Poirier when he had him up against the cage. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because it looked like he had him hurt up against the cage, and then he shot for the double leg.
I think Michael Chandler wants to stand. I think he's caught between two like mentalities, where he wants to go in and he wants to put on the exciting fight, but he also wants to win up against Dustin Poirier. I think he's going to think that he's going to have the grappling advantage. And Dustin Poirier showed some really good jiu-jitsu chops that a lot of people knew, but maybe forgot that he had. But I think Michael Chandler going out and trying to finish him and then realizing, all right, this guy is a boxer. This guy does have a crazy chin. My path to victory may not be knocking him out, because this is a guy who survived punches from Conor McGregor, a bunch of times in those second 2 fights. Landed a lot of shots, on him. Michael Chandler's a guy who knows the power that he has in his hands. And he also uses a lot of his speed in order to land those punches. And as the fight goes on, obviously that speed is going to wither away. So I think he's thinking, all right, I gave him my best on the feet. Now maybe try him out on the ground. And that's also emphasized by the fact that, I don't know if this is the takedown that you're talking about, but he went for the takedown, didn't quite get it, looked like he was going to fall and almost accept the north-south position. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just does a squat, picks up Dustin by the single leg, and then dumps him. He dumps him, but Dustin was really smart. As Michael Chandler was putting his right leg over to get the hook in, he blocked the foot, which allowed him to turn back into him and then come up on top, ultimately putting his right leg over, taking the back, and finishing with the rear naked choke a little bit later on. So I think, and I don't know why I brought that up, but I'm just thinking that Michael Chandler probably throughout the fight, that mentality and the game plan and the strategy probably evolves. He hit Dustin hard, right? And Dustin, he maybe stumbled a period of time, but really the biggest knockdown came from Dustin Poirier on Michael Chandler. So as much as I don't like Dustin because I think he's a fake nice guy, I don't think he's a good dude. I think he's an asshole that tries to be a good dude and he comes off very fake. Michael Chandler, as maybe fake or scripted as he may seem, I think he's just like that. And I just get a lot more of a genuine feel from Michael Chandler than I do Dustin Poirier. And that's partly, when stuck between two people that I can't really decide who's going to win, it's a toss up, it's a coin flip. I'm going to go with the guy I like a little bit better and who I can get behind. And ultimately, I just think Michael Chandler's a little bit more exciting. So why did he go for that takedown? I think because ultimately what he was throwing on that feet was not landing for him and not getting him the desired result.
Yeah, the one I was talking about, I think, was the one in the first. I do agree with you on the one in the third that ultimately led to the rear naked choke. That one was – I understand why he went for that one, right? Because I was talking about the one in the first when Dustin had him up against the cage. He's beating Chandler up a little bit. Chandler's taking that one where his nose literally like blew.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And then Chandler gets him up against the fence, and he's beating up Dustin now, and he's throwing shots. You can tell he's starting to get a little winded. He's basically giving Dustin everything he has. There was an opportunity for potentially maybe him to like start landing shots to the body, get Dustin to drop his hands a little bit, and then go back up top. And then instead of doing that or just continuing to try and lay the shots on Dustin, he went for a double leg. And then that led into the second round where Chandler basically took him down immediately and controlled him for 5 minutes. And I think that's why, the takedown that you were talking about, I think that's why he shot for that single leg, because he had just had almost 5 minutes of control time. But I was talking about the one in the first. And I was just curious your take on it, because I've seen some people online saying like he shouldn't have gone for that. He, like in boxing, if you have a guy up against the ropes, you don't relent. You just keep going. You keep throwing shots, change levels, make him drop his hands, and then keep firing off up top. But yeah.
I'm just gonna, and my only point on this is like I feel like when you're in a fight, it's easy to have hindsight being 20/20, but when you're in the fight and when you're in a battle like that, you're getting punched back and forth. It's hard to say where your brain is going to be,
Right.
and you're probably going to revert to your lowest level of training, which for Michael Chandler is going to be the takedown, is going to be the grappling. It's not like you're having this clear mentality throughout the entire fight after being punched hundreds of times, blood pouring out of your face. There's no way that you can be like, I'm winning here. I think it's probably your lowest level primal, never having been there myself, probably your lowest level primal ability to think. And that's going to be, hey, I'm a strong grappler. This is what I've been doing for most of my life. This is what my body has, what I put my body through. So it's built and accustomed to doing. This is what I'm going to do. And then ultimately he had a little success with that, more success with it in the second. Makes sense why he went after it again in the third, but Dustin was just primed to it. And I think ultimately Michael Chandler's biggest problem as a fighter is when he's in those situations that he loves to get into and that the fans love, is that a lot of those decisions ends up being, not the most intelligent for that specific moment. And I think Dustin, probably that's where he edged him out. Dustin was expecting that takedown. Once he got the takedown, he goes, all right, well, he's going to try and pass right to my back. Boom, blocked there, turn into him. And then now you have Chandler, who's a little discombobulated. What he expected to happen didn't happen, and now Dustin's able to get the upper hand because he kind of was able to expect it or game plan it or think about it. So I think the real winner, the decisive ability that determined this fight was Dustin Poirier's fight IQ and his jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, coming down to the end there. I actually did have Chandler. It could have been, I think, maybe 20-17 going into the third round because of that second round with just the control time and everything.
Yeah, but it's New York, man. It's New York, and you never know. That's letting it go to the cards is a gamble in and of itself. And because the entire main card was finishes, I mean, I guess all you guys are always trying to finish, but I wonder if there was something potentially said of like, hey, or I wonder if that's ever said, or if there's any specific location where that's emphasized further of like, hey, this you don't want to let it go to the judges ever, but like especially not here.
Yeah, and there definitely was some weird judging going on too because you had that Carolina Kovalevich fight,
right? With the change.
Yeah, they changed the scorecards after they brought him into Bruce Buffer. But I mean, I agree with that first takedown from Michael Chandler. That was the point that I wanted to get across because, I think when Dustin Poirier is hurt, he's very dangerous. And then when he's hurt and his back is up against the cage, he's even more dangerous. I saw Chael talking about, if you wound an animal and corner them, it doesn't matter if they're like a predator or, a prey, they're going to fight for their life. And Dustin Poirier, we've seen him with his back to the cage, hurt in bad situations, and he's extremely violent, even more so there than he normally is just in a regular standing exchange. So with that takedown in the first round that Michael Chandler went for. And I really think that going into the third, it was his fight to lose, which he did. Dustin Poirier is kind of like the king of those like top tier lightweights at this point, as much as it pains me to say it, because the names on his resume are absurd. And it's a little bit of like a carousel where all these guys have fought each other at this point. And Dustin Poirier has pretty much finished everybody, right? He's finished Justin Gaethje, Eddie Alvarez, Michael Chandler now. Obviously
it's silly against the champion. So
right. Well, when it really counts, and that was another crazy thing too, is he almost like that moment when he was saying that Michael Chandler was putting his fingers in his mouth. It looked like there was about to be a rear naked choke locked up there, which I thought would have been so funny if that's just how Dustin loses every fight now, is by letting his neck, get taken.
To what Chael said though, like when you have a wounded animal backed up into a corner, they're going to fight for their life. Some are going to fight more intelligently than others. And I think, back to what I was saying, like Michael Chandler is going to resort to grappling when maybe he doesn't need to. And I just think Poirier has the better IQ there to back up against the wall, makes the better decisions.
Yeah, I wonder if he would have got. I mean, obviously, this is close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, right? But he was close to that finish in the first round, and I'm curious to know, like, if he would have kept throwing, would Dustin have gone down? I don't know if that's the case. So I think maybe going for that first round takedown, I think it might have been the right move in the moment.
And he may have tired himself out to, it's a trade-off there. He tired himself out throwing punches that is ultimately not going to get him closer to a finish.
What do you think? Two things. What did you think of the blood, like the nose blowing that people are calling cheating now, that we're probably praising it when Luke Rockhold was doing it to Paulo Costa? Come on, we watch this sport because it's violent and bloody. But there's a lot of like Dustin fans like coping online with that. And Dustin himself is like the king of going, well, this person cheated against me. And, he put his fingers in my mouth. You could see Dustin bite down when his fingers accidentally go in his mouth because he wants to get the position reset. He wants to say that Chandler put his fingers in his mouth. He wants, I think it was Murgliata was in there for that fight.
It was Murgliata. I know for a fact because I had a couple too many at the bar. And what fight was it? Oh, it was at the end of the first round.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking at the clock, and we're at a sports bar, so I didn't hear the clappers.
Uh-huh.
So I see Murgliata step in, and it was right when Poirier was landing shots. I was like, "What are you doing? That's an early stoppage!"
Right.
The rounds over. I'm like, "Oh, thank God!" Like, I would be so pissed if that was like an early stop to the fight. But egg on my face. But definitely Murgliata because I was screaming Murgliata's name.
Right. So, yeah, that's what I think Dustin was trying to get at. I think he was trying to keep the fingers in his mouth so that Mergliata has to like now stand them up because Chandler did land a couple shots to the back of the head there, and Mergliata was getting a little pissed about that. But yeah, a lot of people online are like, "Oh, Michael Chandler's a cheater. All he does is cheat." And there's a lot of
he does is cheat.
Yeah, there's a lot of stupid people out there that are fans of this sport, trolls and just idiots that like go in for one fighter. But
Anytime I see an opinion like that, I'm like, okay, this person is almost obviously trolling because it's incoherent to have this opinion.
right. But and like the nose blowing and everything. What was your take on like the the nose blowing, and then also what do you think is next for Michael Chandler?
Yeah, so Michael Chandler, I think, can potentially get Conor McGregor. Especially, I mean, it may be a little bit harder coming off of a loss, but you had brought this up that Michael Chandler hasn't won 2 fights in the UFC in a row, but he's also fought killers. So you can trade one for the other, and he's also going to trade a potential victory for an exciting fight, which I think for somebody who's probably not going to be the champion isn't necessarily a bad move because at the name of the game is prize fighting. You're trying to make the most money you can, and the way you do that is by being the biggest fan favorite you can, or by winning a ton of fights. When you're not a champion and that's off the table, you want to have the most amount of people watching you as possible. And Michael Chandler is cultivating that environment, win, lose, or draw. Yeah, I saw someone said on the scorecards Poirier won, but really Poirier won because he won, and it was a thrilling fight. Chandler won because everybody knows that if Michael Chandler is going to be in a fight, it's going to be fantastic, and the fans won obviously from getting to watch it, right? And the monies too. I mean, they were both getting. I don't think money was a problem. I think the $50,000 bonus that they both get fucking nominal compared to what their purse is. But
yeah, I'm just saying going forward, it puts them in a great position. Michael Chandler to make more money because he's going to be in money fights now.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, and here's the thing. I think Conor McGregor, no matter what happens, he can almost always have his pick, and he's not fighting for at least another 6 months until he gets back in the pool. Yeah, I mean, you could do a Poirier 3. You could do a Chandler 4, right? Sorry, Poirier 4. You could do a Chandler. I think the Chandler one would probably get more people going because, I mean, Poirier probably would be down to fight him because Poirier is in a very similar position as Michael Chandler. So Poirier would probably say yes for the money, but then it's almost getting stale doing back to back to back to back. So I think you would have to break up the monotony, have Conor McGregor go against Michael Chandler, and you would just hope that I mean, that would be I think that would be an interesting fight, and there's no way that that's not exciting. And then with a win there, you can maybe move to a Poirier kind of thing. There's this whole subset because the lightweight division is so competitive, and there's so many good guys in there, and the top is such a high caliber of grappling that there's this cohort of guys who are really fucking good and really fucking exciting and have a great following, but aren't going to be the champion. So you have like the actual. It's almost like Mike Tyson when he was talking about. He wants to have a legends only league that just puts on like exciting fights, or I think somebody had even mentioned having like a 35 and up division category for people who are exciting fights but aren't going to be champion. And that's what we're seeing to play out in the lightweight division. And we're going to see in probably some other divisions, potentially the heavyweight too, is there's this whole cohort of guys who are exciting and want to be watched, but they're not good enough to be the champion. So they kind of have their own bracket. Gaethje's in there, Poirier's in there, Chandler's in there, McGregor is probably in there. But then also for McGregor, you got to remember that Diaz is out of his contract. There could be a boxing thing on the table, and McGregor's always tempted to go back to boxing for whatever reason.
Right.
So what's next for Michael Chandler is I think the world is his oyster. He could go and he could fight another amazing fight with Gaethje. He can go. He's definitely positioned himself for a Conor McGregor, but you're not going to see him fight, someone who doesn't have a name. He's only putting on exciting fights, and I would imagine why would he not headline a fight night, especially with Dana White saying that they want to get out and they barring something crazy, they want to start touring again. They want to leave the Apex, maybe not permanently, but they want to do far less events inside the Apex. They want to continue to travel. Why would you not, if numbered cards are reserved for championships, why would you not have Chandler versus somebody exciting on a fight night card if he can't get McGregor, and then raise the notoriety there? Do it, they have Holland and Thompson in Orlando, right? That's going to be an exciting fight. You could also do a Chandler versus whomever in the lightweight division, and headline that. So that's what I think is next. And then just real quick on the blood thing, dude, if you're bleeding, of course, fucking, you're supposed to make your opponent uncomfortable. When you're grappling, you can put your hands in their throats to obstruct their breathing. So why would you not be able to fucking bleed on them? Like,
Right.
don't be a
Let's
wimp.
Chandler missed the McGregor payday, losing that fight, cost
I
him
don't think
millions
so.
of dollars. Yeah, I don't think so either. Because if you look at the rankings at this point, not that rankings necessarily matter for Conor McGregor, I believe he's like 12 in the lightweight division right now. Like he's rapidly plummeting the more that we see this, renewed talent, or renewed level of talent, young guys rising up the lightweight division, just slowly pushing him back and out. I don't think that it necessarily matters that Chandler lost. He said McGregor wants to fight.
See, exactly. That's what we're saying.
Exactly.
He's positioning himself. 4D chess here.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think that that's still a huge payday, and he'll still get that McGregor fight potentially if that happens. I think the only thing that stops Conor McGregor and a Chandler fight is if the UFC does not deem that a headliner for an event. So if it's not a pay-per-view and McGregor and Chandler aren't at the top, because like keep in mind the main event gets pay-per-view points. I don't think you're going to see McGregor do anything without pay-per-view points. And I also don't know if you put Conor McGregor in a main event nowadays, like maybe if you did it as like a send-off and there was like that, oh, this is it, type of air about it, then you could put him in a main event. But we may just never see Conor McGregor come back. I think that's also a big possibility too, because, all right, now it's going to be 2 years off at the point that Conor McGregor comes back, suffered two pretty bad losses. He's not going to be
different weight or body type.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's like that justification to make him a main event. And if he doesn't get the main event money, I don't know if he's going to come back. The whole silk sheets mentality. Does he have it in him just to come back just for the grind of it? I don't think that that's the case. McGregor wants a title shot. He's not going to get that off rip. And if he does, then it just goes to show. Because now that he's 12 in the rankings, like it just goes to show how much he
there's also there's no one for him to fight. I mean, like he's going to fight Islam or Charles. Like those are not bouts for him. Like that's why like he kind of does want to fight a loser because he wants to win. Think about like this will be his comeback fight. His last comeback fight was against Cowboy Cerrone. Cowboy Cerrone wasn't good at that point.
Yeah, he was really falling. He does talk about wanting to go to 170, and I think potentially he gives Leon a good fight. That would be a good stand-up scrap. Maybe Leon would actually go to take him down at that point because we saw Leon take down Kamaru Usman. But I think that would be like his best bet at potentially, winning a belt out of the current champions who he could face. I just don't know if he has it in him anymore. I think the best move for McGregor is try and get to like a co-main event. If he can't get the main event, they'll probably give it to him somewhere. They'll probably give it to him in Las Vegas, but go out on a win.
McGregor will never fight on a co-main event. I don't see. McGregor would be the lone exception to where you could have a title fight as the co-main and McGregor as the main.
So ridiculous, but I agree. Yeah, so then, have him be like the main event, send him out on a win, and then he can go, use that to like elevate his boxing career, show that he's not entirely washed up. But I think the Chandler McGregor main event, if that could happen, that would be sick. Because, then you would just need them to like bring out the vitriol in the press conference. Mike Chandler's already too nice of a guy. If you had like Conor McGregor come out and be the nice guy that he was for like Poirier 2 or against Cowboy, who wants to see that at that point? You have to sell that fight.
I think Conor's also already said like on Twitter, like Chandler's a good fighter. Or I don't know, my Irish accent is not good this morning, but he said that he would definitely fight him, maybe down the line or something. But he had acknowledged that he likes Chandler. He likes Chandler's style of fight. He likes the notoriety that he brings to fights, and that would potentially be a good matchup for him. Coming off of a loss, like I said, like I don't think that loss did hurt Michael Chandler, and Conor may want that. Conor may want the championship fight. I just don't think he's going to get it, and I think he'd rather get his mojo back of this fucking killer than being a guy who is going to sit out and potentially get shit on by Twitter trolls.
Yeah. All right. Well, we just spent a half an hour reviewing UFC 271.
We only talked about like 2 fights.
Yeah, I know, right? Erin Blanchfield, big win for her.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. I mean, it wasn't even like it wasn't competitive. That's what DC said after the fight. And I had like a little fight party over here. We were playing some Pog, watching the fights, and I shot my shot, and then you hear DC go, "That wasn't even competitive," and I was like, "Oh shit, that's gonna hurt for Molly McCann to hear."
But we kind of knew that, right? There were some people who were expecting maybe Molly's going to get that submission and it was going to be crazy. And at the point where you're looking for props that have like plus 29,000 odds or 2,900 odds or whatever, that's a far cry from a close fight.
Certainly, but anything could happen in this game.
And it's so weird the UFC's matchmaking on that though, right? Like, why build Molly McCann up to be such a star and then just throw her to Erin Blanchfield? Like,
because what that does now is Erin Blanchfield, who's got the talent, she was local. I mean, it's also crazy. She's from New Jersey, and yet the crowd who was there for the prelims were in favor of Molly McCann over.
I guess you're trying to build Blanchfield up because she's younger and she definitely could be a champion. Right?
Yeah, the skill level. I think she has the ground game. Molly has shown that she's got it really good on her feet. She's a really good striker. A little sloppy but powerful. And Erin took it to her and then ended that fight. With the Kimura, and she just showed that she's incredibly talented. She's 23. To this point, it was a fair fight. I don't know about that. I mean, every fight's a fair fight at the end of the day, but I believe Erin Blanchfield was minus 450 going in. So even Vegas was like, Erin Blanchfield is going to dominate this matchup. It really wasn't competitive at all. But she brought it to her on her feet. And then once it went to the ground, she went to the crucifix and, Molly McCann.
If you're getting crucifixed in the UFC, that is a clear differentiator between talent levels and skill levels. It's almost like getting put in the walls of Jericho,
Right.
on the regional scene.
Yeah.
If you're getting put in the walls of Jericho on the regional scene, it maybe isn't your thing, buddy.
Yeah, I was getting worried though because I had Erin Blanchfield by submission, and it looked like for a minute there, maybe with the elbows coming down from the crucifix, that they were going to call that TKO. But Molly was fighting from there. She was trying to pop her hips out and just create some separation, but she couldn't. So yeah, Erin Blanchfield really. I mean, that's what it is though. They set her up to then steal the hype from Molly because everybody knows Molly McCann at this point. A lot of people tune into the prelims, maybe even just for her fight. She's definitely a draw for female fighters, regardless of ranking right now. And you take her hype and you just give it right to Erin Blanchfield, and now there's going to be a lot of people.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so. But she's got some good wins too, and I just hope she keeps climbing up those rankings. So let's see. Did we pick the Lewis card already? We did not.
No, we didn't. Great segue. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
UFC Fight Night, Derrick Lewis, Sergey Spivak coming up this weekend. That's truly what we're here to talk about. It's the title of the video, Best Bets, Picks and Predictions. What do you say we get into it? But before we do that, Keith, as we always tell everybody,
Yes.
Leave us a comment. Let us know what you're thinking. Thank you so much, Rogue Strummer, for joining us this morning. Coffee up to you, sir. Check us out on Spotify if you're not able to catch it on YouTube. I guess anyone who'll be watching this is on YouTube, but maybe you're listening on Spotify, and we appreciate you if you are. Like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate the following, and this is only my second time doing this. A little risky. Why don't you take it over, Keith?
That's okay. Like, comment, subscribe. It really helps us out if you subscribe. We're trying to grow this following right now. We are at 200 subscribers. We want to smash 300 as soon as possible and then keep climbing. So please, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram @_Pickin winners. That's like the whole team. You can find all of our football stuff. Football, UFC, lacrosse when that comes back around. And we're trying to add new stuff. Actually, you know what? If you're watching this right now and you want to make content, we've already got a really good team. We've got a little bit of a grasp on this at this point. Slide in our DMs and let us know what sports you want to cover, because we're always looking for new people. And if you follow us on Twitter and Instagram, you'll get notifications as to when we're putting out new stuff. On top of that, please follow us on our personal Twitters right underneath our names. Our faces. Our names are right there. I'm @Pickin Keith, and Tom is @Pickin Fights Tom. Just saying that out loud in case you're listening on Spotify. If you can't watch a full episode in your car, I always say that if you can't watch an episode in your car, say you're driving and you want to listen to us on Spotify, or you want to listen to us rather than watching on YouTube, go ahead. We're on Spotify as well. So with all that being said, we're going to start this off with our prelim notables. I've got a pretty good one that I feel nice about, and just one this week. I've got Vanessa Demopoulos. I like her. She's entertaining, funny girl, great personality. So you might actually remember her post-fight press conference with Joe Rogan at UFC 270. And then I think the last fight night that she was on, in between then, she jumped into like Michael Bisping's arms, I'm pretty sure, or maybe DC's. But major comeback win for that UFC 270 fight. She got dropped by Silvana Gomez Juarez and was definitely out. And then she locked up an armbar from her back. She got a really good full guard. She makes great use of all four limbs the way that a true jiu-jitsu player should. And she's developing into a really great grappler and jiu-jitsu player, especially in terms of the UFC, where now you don't see as many specialists, but you see true mixed martial artists. She's really developing into a true mixed martial artist in terms of like, okay, maybe I don't have it on my feet. Let me focus a little bit more on the grappling from my back. And then you look at her opponent this week, Maria Oliveira, strong hands, legit knockout power. But I think the combination between Vanessa Demopoulos' ability to recover from her back, if she does get dropped by Oliveira, she'll be able to, throw something up from her full guard, or, at least get into a favorable position from her back. And Maria Oliveira has struggled with a few grapplers in the past, back when she was in, I think, LFA before, and early years in the UFC. So I think or early fights, I think at plus 100, I'm going to go with Vanessa Demopoulos here. I like her ability to recover and then throw something up off her back. So what do you think of that one, Tom? And what's your prelim notable this week?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Vanessa Demopoulos, she's the one who used to be like a stripper, right? Or like a pole dancer. And then that's why she like attributes her. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that correctly.
Yes,
the same correct. Girl that liked to jump into the arms also used to be a stripper. And I think they also she jumped into Bisping's arms and he held her like with one arm and didn't touch her with the other. And they were making a joke that he's a smart guy and knows not to touch, someone like that. There was some joke or whatever.
It's not his wife. It's, nothing to do with her being a stripper. He didn't want to touch her.
His wife wasn't a stripper. He was smart to not anger his wife by not touching the stripper when she jumped into his arms. That just
she's not a stripper anymore. All right.
No, but she does. I think she does attribute to the fact her flexibility and ability to pick up MMA martial arts from her time being a stripper. And Rogan talks about a lot, there are these other sports, these other physical activities that translate well over. And he talks about break dancers,
right,
having great balance and great body control to be able to pick up jiu-jitsu much faster than other people. And right. There may be something about that with strippers, and as seen through Vanessa Demopoulos. Hopefully I'm not getting that confused.
No,
you're
right.
At Maria Oliveira and you look at her competition outside the UFC, she's fighting 0-0 people, 0-2 people, 2-1 people. So it's not like there's this high caliber of competition that she's faced and now comes into the UFC. She I believe on her UFC debut, she lost to Tabitha Baby Shark Ritchie, who's not bad in and of her own right. And then she got a recent win over Gloria DePaul. That was a split decision, very close fight. and Gloria DePaul is 6-4 in her own right. I think at plus 100, I'm not seeing why she's not the favorite, Vanessa Demopoulos. Looking on Tapology, she's got 70% of the vote there as well. So I think that Vanessa Demopoulos pick, especially if you can get even money coming back for you, I think that's a very, very smart one and a good pick on the prelims. Mine is going to be somebody that I actually did vow to not ever pick again after his previous fight in the UFC. But we talk a lot about matchmaking and why the UFC does what they do. And I think when you have a fighter who's on The Ultimate Fighter and was, I believe, the champion from The Ultimate Fighter, and if not, definitely had developed a very strong following there. I don't think the UFC is going to want to, just because of one bad fight, get rid of that potential star that they worked and they put so much money and investment in to build up. And that person I'm talking about is Ricky Tercios. He's taking on Kevin Natividad. I'm just realizing this now. It's the Christmas season. Hard to pick against a guy with Natividad. Sounds like Feliz Navidad. So really, really difficult at this time of the year to pick against a guy like that. But I'm going to. Kevin Natividad is not a fantastic prospect. He lost to Baccarat a year and a half ago, so pretty long layoff for the 29-year-old here. Also lost to Miles Johns with an uppercut right before that. Had 3 wins outside of the UFC leading up to his UFC debut. But again, some of those guys, it was LFA, so a pretty strong promotion, but still not of the level of competition that would give me confidence over a guy like Ricky Tercios, who has been pretty dynamic. And he is pretty awkward in the way that he throws his punches and the way that he approaches his UFC fights or his MMA fights. So I'm going to have to go with Ricky Tercios. I think he's going to have the ability to put Kevin Natividad away. Kevin Natividad being out a year and a half, 29 years old, 9-3 record. He's going to have a little bit of a reach disadvantage here. Ricky Tercios coming out of that Team Alpha Male too, I think is a better fight camp, probably better competition that he's training with. And he's the minus 150 favorite. There's a good amount of people on him on Tapology, 84%. I'm going to go with Ricky Tercios here. This is going to be my last time betting on Ricky Tercios if he doesn't get this done. But I just think that there's too much investment in him up to this point by the UFC to give him an opponent that he's going to lose to and leave. And I also believe his last fight, that was kind of a nothing burger where he went out and just kind of yelled at Alman Zahabi. I think Zahabi is a guy who wasn't being given enough credit. Faras's brother, training at TriStar, very close with George St. Pierre. I think I think that was a matchup that maybe was being understated for Ricky Tercios. I don't think Alman Zahabi was given the credit that he should have been given. He was out for a little bit of a layoff before coming into that fight too. And I believe Ricky was also semi-injured or nursing an injury. There was something about his camp to why he wasn't able to fight the way he wants. So I'm expecting Ricky Tercios in what's probably his last attempt at staying in the UFC here. He's got investment from the UFC. He is a dynamic striker, and Kevin Natividad has had issues with his chin in the past. I'm going to go with Ricky Tercios here as my prelim lock. What do you think?
I like the pick, but for all those reasons why you said you wouldn't bet on him before, I'm still skeptical about Ricky Tercios. There is, the level of investment, and being that season of The Ultimate Fighter didn't have too many stars, and Ricky Tercios is he is the star. He had that moment when I think it was like the semifinals on The Ultimate Fighter when he was pointing down, Max Holloway-esque, and they stood in the middle and they were banging. That'll probably be enough to keep him around for a couple more fights, even if he does lose here, because you got to have at least somebody still from every season of The Ultimate Fighter. I think there still is, except for classes that have retired entirely at this point. But I think there's also other guys that are going to go first from that season of The Ultimate Fighter too. I think Trayshawn Gore is much more likely to get cut before Ricky Tercios, and maybe Brian Battle's a mainstay. I think at this point, maybe who's the other
guy who just got a win this past week. We both bet on him, and I'm blanking on his name right now. we just picked him to win this past. All right, I'll find it. This is gonna irritate me
Yeah.
if I don't figure this out.
I think you also,
Yeah,
huh?
grappler from PA.
Oh, oh man, this is gonna kill me. Who did we just take? As if it wasn't just like 2 days ago.
Yeah, seriously.
Let's.
Petrosky, Andre Petrosky.
Oh yeah.
Petrosky. He was a guy that he won his first fight. I think he lost his second fight, so he didn't go on to the championship, and then came in and he's got 3 wins in the UFC. He's arguably done the best so far
Yeah.
in the UFC
Yeah.
from that season.
Brady High stands on this card as well. He was from that season too.
Mm-hmm.
But
He's got a loss to Ricky Tercios. Brady does.
right. So yeah, I'm a little skeptical still about Ricky Tercios. I'll let you take this one. I don't think I'm going to tell you here personally.
Fair enough.
I hope I
Hey,
don't miss
by the way, I forgot to mention this, but I think I went 7-2 and you went 6-1 for UFC 281. So pretty strong card for the both of us. So
and Chandler being the only loss there too, which is crazy because it looked like it was his fight to go or to win. So we could have gone basically undefeated, which would have been sick. But shit happens, man. Death taxes and Michael Chandler being crazy. All right, so we got the main card opener: Jack Della Maddalena versus Danny Roberts. I think this is an easy pick. Jack Della Maddalena, minus 450 favorite. Young, hungry Australian, and he's got shadow realm power too. He's got crazy knockout power. I mean, this is, you don't even have to switch the camera to me, Tom, because I'm just going to say it. I'm taking Jack Della Maddalena, and I think he's going to get it done by knockout. That's all I have to say about that. He's just immensely better than Danny Roberts. He's a really hungry top tier prospect. That's really all I'm going to say now. What do you got? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm following you with that. You have a guy in Danny Roberts, Hot Chocolate Roberts, who's been on and off, has taken some time off for a good amount of fights. I mean, between the Zelim Imedov knockout win 3 years ago, took him about 2 years to get back in, won a split decision over Ramazan Ameev, which isn't a bad win, but I don't know how much I necessarily agree with that split decision there. And then he had the loss to 40-year-old Francisco Trinaldo. At 35 years old, Danny Roberts is not going to be the best version of himself. Still training with the Black Zillions, but coming in here, it's a very similar build. He's actually taller, but not lankier than Jake Della Maddalena. And Jake Della Maddalena has been, murdering people for, his entire UFC career. And even before that, Ange Lusa, he in his contender series, he won a unanimous decision. But since then, he knocked out Pete Rodriguez with a counter left, knocked out Ramazan Ameev with a liver punch. Jake Della Maddalena is a guy who's going to be able to withstand getting hit, and he's going to throw it right back and throw power bombs at that. Danny Roberts, a guy who's had potential chin issues in the past. He's aging a little bit. And he leaves his chin out there oftentimes. I think Jake Della Maddalena is going to find. So Jake Della Maddalena, minus 450 favorite. I think a parlay piece. I don't know if I would want to throw him in there. Just outright taking him money line. But Jake Della Maddalena probably by finish maybe makes that a little bit more attractive. Maybe a minus 300. And if you got the funds, you could toss that on there. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Maybe add to a parlay. But Jake Della Maddalena, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I'm taking him by knockout, not even just by finish. I'm taking him purely by knockout because I think a lot of his fights, he'll land like a really good cross and just put a guy out on his feet. And I think this is one of those weekends where that could happen. So next up,
fight where I don't expect that to happen.
Yeah, Cody Brundage versus Adolfo Vieira, and I am gonna go with Cody Brundage here. The only underdogs this week. And the reason I say that is because Cody Brundage showed that against Tresean Gore, he's actually got it on his feet. He handed that one with a heavy overhand. And Tresean Gore is, he's another guy with power. He can stand and bang. And a lot of guys mistake Cody Brundage for a wrestler when, he has been showing he does have, legit power on his feet. And then you look at Adolfo Vieira and some notable losses or some notable fights in his case. lost to Chris Curtis, who is a great stand-up fighter. Chris Curtis does have incredible takedown defense, but I noticed against Chris Curtis, Rodolfo Vieira was really telegraphing a lot of his takedowns, just really poor takedowns. And he didn't really have any answers for Chris Curtis on his feet. I think Cody Brundage is going to bring a challenge to Rodolfo Vieira because, Rodolfo Vieira is a great, not great, but he's a pretty good jiu-jitsu player. And I think Cody Brundage is finally putting it together with his hands. He has the ability to hang with Rodolfo Vieira on the ground if he does get taken down, move into more favorable positions. And also Rodolfo Vieira loves to submit guys. Cody Brundage has never been submitted as a fighter. I don't think he has a single submission loss on his record. He's really good against jiu-jitsu guys. I think the people of Tapology in this one have this one entirely wrong because they have overwhelming votes on Vieira by submission, but I just don't think that's going to happen for Brundage here this weekend. I think he's going to bring it to Vieira on his feet and hang with him on the ground, potentially even get on top and TKO, land some elbows, some strikes. I'm going with Cody Brundage, plus 150 dog. Pretty good value here. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, and I'm going to be going with Rodolfo Vieira. Looking at Cody Brundage, he's a guy who got knocked out by William Knight by TKO and then, elbows to ground and pound 2 years ago on the Contender Series, had to go back to LFA. Did get the submission by arm triangle against 4-1 Joseph Kropshot. Got a shot in the UFC, lost to Nick Maximov by decision. Didn't get submitted by Nick Maximov. So, I mean, I guess, you can give him some credit where credit's due there. But then moving on, Dalcha Langambula, he got the guillotine choke on him. Dalcha is not necessarily a guy who's known for his ground ability whatsoever. He's a really, really long, powerful striker. So, props to Cody Brundage there and keeping up that, grappling prowess. And then he knocked out Tresean Gore. And we're learning with every fight more and more that Tresean Gore maybe isn't the force that we had thought. And he's widely inexperienced when it comes to mixed martial arts in general. He got, I think, 4 total fights and he's in the UFC. A little bit embarrassing for your number one promotion to have a guy who's got, 4 total fights, 3 total fights, and he's fighting, in your promotion. You would expect that someone would have a little bit more experience or have to prove themselves a little bit more. Again, Tresean Gore is a guy who's coming off of The Ultimate Fighter during the pandemic, so maybe it's a little bit harder to source guys. Not too well versed in that, but maybe that had something to do with it. And you talk about, so I don't think Cody Brundage had faced a level of grappling competition up, unless you talk about Nick Maximov, that Rodolfo Vieira is going to bring to him. And a lot of people, they underestimate Rodolfo Vieira's leg kicks. He's very clean and quick with his leg kicks. His hands may not be there, but his leg kicks are very well timed, very precise, and they can be powerful. And I think if he's going to throw those low leg kicks, that's definitely going to impede the movement of Cody Brundage. And then once those are banged up, he's going to be able to get those takedowns. And yeah, they may be sloppy at times, but I think ultimately Rodolfo Vieira is going to be able to get Cody Brundage to the ground. I do agree with you that Cody Brundage is probably going to be able to defend submissions. I don't think Cody Brundage is going to get submissions or going to get submitted. I don't think Rodolfo Vieira is going to win this one by finish, but I do think because of the ground time, because of the accumulating leg kicks and the time that Rodolfo is going to spend tying up Cody Brundage either in the clinch, on the fence, or on the ground, and then maybe throwing some additional punches. But I think the control time is going to be the differentiator here. I think this is going to spend a lot of time on the ground, and I think Rodolfo Vieira is going to be the one in the more powerful position, giving the judges no choice but to give this one by decision to Rodolfo Vieira.
Okay. All fair points. All fair points. I mean, I like that you didn't entirely rule out Cody Brundage just potentially getting a win here. It's going to be a good fight, I think.
I mean, I think if Cody Brundage can keep it on the feet, that's obviously going to be, not obviously, but that's probably going to be his best path forward because he's got the better striking ability, the better hands ability. But I wouldn't, discount Rodolfo Vieira's leg kicks, especially from range. Well, all leg kicks are kind of from range, otherwise they'd be knees. But I think Rodolfo Vieira's leg kicks are definitely going to be something that is an impactor for this fight. And I don't know if Cody Brundage is going to want to take Rodolfo Vieira to the ground, but I think ultimately that's where predominantly the amount of fight is going to take place. So I'm going with Rodolfo Vieira here. But yeah, on this card, there's a lot of pick'em fights, Pickin fights.
Yeah. Good one. There's a lot of close ones for sure. and a lot of good stand-up bouts like this next one's going to be. Muslim Salikov versus Andre Fiallo. This is definitely a pick'em fight because I think it's like minus 120 for Muslim Salikov and plus 110 for Andre Fiallo. Like those are true pick'em lines. And I've picked all dogs already except for Jack Della Maddalena, so I'm going to go with Andre Fiallo too. At plus 110. And reason for that just being both of these guys throw heavy shots. They like to stand in the middle. I just think Andre Fiallo is he's got the heavier shots of the two guys. I think Muslim Salikov, he suffered a pretty bad knockout against Li Jingliang his last time around. It's been a bit of a layoff for Muslim Salikov too, right? When was the last time he fought?
So a little concerning, but that knockout to Li Jingliang was only 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So back on a quick turnaround for a 38-year-old here.
Okay, yeah. So it was the opposite of what I was thinking. It wasn't a long layoff from a knockout. It was a quick turnaround after a knockout. That doesn't bode well for him here. Andre Fiallo suffered a knockout in his last fight to Jake Matthews, and but that was a little bit longer ago. What'd you say?
5 months.
Yeah, that should be enough time to recover, right? From brain damage. But I think Fiallo just has like the better chance of, when these two guys are engaging with each other and they're in close range. I think Fiallo has the stronger like short range punches, better chance of landing them in more damaging spots. He's a little bit more accurate. I guess you could say like a heat-seeking missile for his opponent's jawline. Always has exciting fights too, Andre Fiallo. He's usually on pay-per-views, usually like on the main card or like a feature prelim. So cool to see him on this fight night. Goes to show like they're trying to amp up the level of competition for these fight night cards, make them a little bit more exciting. But I'm taking Andre Fiallo here. I think he's the stronger of the two guys, and he's going to land more damaging shots that could eventually end the fight. What do you think, Tom?
The thing that concerns me for Andre Fiallo is the fact that he did lose to Jake Matthews, and this was the Jake Matthews who came out and said, "I'm a new Jake Matthews. I'm going out and throwing caution to the wind. And I'm just going out and trying to kill people," and he's trying to show off the full version of him. So I think that loss to Jake Matthews isn't something to necessarily poo-poo, but he did get really badly hurt against Cameron Van Camp. He did come back and get that knockout win. But Andre Fiallo is not necessarily without chin issues for him, of his own. But Muslim Salikov is probably going to be your more technical fighter here, the kickboxer. He's not going to have the range in this fight. He's going to have a more advanced age at 38 years old against 20-year-old Andre Fiallo. And he has the more recent knockout. So I think for a lot of those reasons, you're going to see a lot more technical fighting from Muslim Salikov. And also, being a Russian guy, they're probably used to getting knocked out and then coming back a little bit quicker. So there's something to be said about maybe a body's ability to take a hit and recover quicker when it's used to it. I'm not exactly sure. Not everybody is built the same. Some, especially when you're concerning a Russian, and then all they have to really do is fight. I'm going to have to go with Andre Fiallo. Just because of the age. I think he's a little bit more wild, but I think he might be a little bit quicker. I don't think this one is going to – I could see both of these guys hurting the other guy, but Muslim Salah – I am actually very, very torn on this because the more I think about Andre Fiallo and his ability to get stunned, the more it concerns me. But then you think about the same thing with Muslim Salikov, and you have more advanced age there and going to be a little bit more technical, so he may be able to defend himself a little bit better. But I'm torn. I think I'm gonna have to go with Andre Fiallo for having some of the I think the case is a little bit easier for him to see a path to victory. Being the younger guy, having a little bit more of a layoff from his last fight, probably improving a little bit more, entering his athletic prime here. Where Muslim Salikov is probably exiting it. We've probably seen the best days of Muslim Salikov behind him. I'll go with Andre Fiallo here.
All right, cool. Technically, that's a super lock, but
I don't feel confident about it either way. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. All right. Next one up, we've got Chase Sherman versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. Where's Waldo? He's fighting on Saturday. That was whack. I'm sorry. Just about both these guys. Waldo Cortez Acosta fought like less than a month ago against was it Jared Bandera?
Yep. A week ago.
It was a week ago they fought.
A week ago, 2 days and 17 hours.
Wow. Okay, that's very, very soon. Quick turnaround. And then,
That is recent.
yeah, and then Chase Sherman was supposed to fight last week too, I think, against John Parisian.
Yeah,
So
Josh Reason that got canceled, got moved here. Waldo Cortez Acosta, good for him, stepping up, saying, "Yeah, I'll fight again."
last week was his UFC debut, that fight against Jared Bandera.
Mhm.
Won that one by decision. I don't know. This is a weird one. I feel like a guy that's gonna like make a statement in the heavyweight division needs to go out and finish Jared Bandera. I don't know if
Yeah.
winning decision is enough because even Chase Sherman has knocked out Jared Bandera in his last
Mhm.
fight.
Mhm.
This is a weird one. I might just say fucking go with. Let me see what the money line is for these guys. I'm gonna check it right now.
Waldo Cortez is a minus 200 favorite.
Yo, fuck it. I'm throwing money on Chase Sherman this weekend. Let's see if he can string together 2 wins.
I fundamentally have a problem with betting on Chase Sherman. I can't do that, and I can't imagine. I mean, maybe it'll happen, but I have even more of a problem betting on Chase Sherman to go on a 2-fight win streak in the UFC, even if it's against an opponent who couldn't finish Jared Van Daren is coming off of a week notice. I think Waldo Cortez Acosta is going to ride that train, take another semi-easy opponent who Chase Sherman's, 3-month layoff. You got to figure he's probably off, a couple weeks after. So not a super long camp, training for an entirely different opponent. Sometimes what you don't know doesn't hurt you. You know what I mean? Don't think too hard about it. Go out and fight it. And then an opponent like Chase Sherman, I don't think you necessarily need to game plan too much. You know what he's going to try and do. So I think Waldo Cortez Acosta, I think I think he gets it done. He's going to be a little bit longer here, not fresher. And these guys are roughly about the same age. Waldo's maybe a little bit bigger here, but I just think at this point he's got something to prove. He's on a 5-fight win streak. He's 8-0. I guess you could say this might be his biggest named opponent thus far. I mean, it's not like Waldo Cortez Acosta is from nowhere. He's fought in Bellator before. He's got wins there, wins in LFA, Contender Series, knockout of Danilo Suzart, and now Jared Vandera. He grinded to that decision with. I will say Jared Vandera. He has terrible fight IQ, but not the worst grappling in the world. He just doesn't use it at the right time. Chase Sherman sometimes going to have a little bit better of a fight IQ, but he got submitted by. He's also fought a little bit of the better company. Well, Jake Collier, Parker Porter. Never mind, I take that back. Yeah, I'll go with Waldo Cortez Acosta because I just have a fundamental problem with betting on Chase Sherman to win any UFC fight, let alone 2 in a row.
Yeah, I know Waldo's probably going to win. Personally, I'm going to throw a little bit of money on Chase Sherman because fuck it. But yeah, I'm going to go with Waldo this week. Waldo Cortez Acosta. All right, next up, Jan Kudalaba versus Kennedy Nzechukwu. This is another weird one because Kennedy Nzechukwu, he's been leaving like a bad taste in my mouth lately, right? Like he annoyed the shit out of me in that Nikolai Negumereanu fight when he just fought so scared the entire time. Like Negumereanu was bringing the fight to him, and Kennedy Nzechukwu was just running away afraid. And then last time around, he did end a fight. Who did he fight last?
Paul Robeson.
Paul Robeson, yeah. And then Jan Kudalaba, he doesn't look like, like what you'd expect for a guy that paints himself green for face-offs. He's been starting to slip a little bit. He's been losing to good names. I mean, Johnny Walker, Ryan Spann. He's fighting the top of the division. This is definitely a step up in competition for Kennedy Nzechukwu. Despite that, Kennedy Nzechukwu is still a minus 170 favorite. He's got incredible range and, a really big reach advantage this week. I'm going to go with Kennedy Nzechukwu. I think he's going to be afraid of Jan Kudalaba's power. So he's going to stand very far away and just throw that jab, throw leg kicks the way that he did against Negumereanu. And I think that's probably going to net him a decision win. So I'm going to go with Kennedy Nizichukwu over Jan Kudalaba. I just don't expect Kennedy to go in there and like really engage, especially when he doesn't have to. He's got almost 10 inches reach. He's not going to want to stand with Jan Kudalaba, who does have really strong power. I just he's gonna point strike him to a decision. So I'm gonna go with Kennedy Nizichukwu. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I think Yanku Dalaba, he wins fights against other grapplers like Ryan Clark, where he's able to go out there and just have a grappling / wrestling type battle. But against guys that have dual threats or are able to stand and bang and defend the takedown on him, or at least keep him off the fence, he ends up having a little bit more of an issue with. And I think Kennedy Nizichukwu coming in here, who's going to be much taller, much lankier. I think there's going to be a 5, 6, 7, 8-inch reach advantage, 9-inch reach advantage. Kennedy Nizichukwu is a guy who definitely has power on his feet and a ability to land. And like you were saying, Keith, I think he's going to have the ability to throw those leg kicks, throw that jab out there, keep that distance away from Yanku Dalaba. And even Jan coming forward is going to try and put him up against the cage. I think even if that does happen, Kennedy has shown an ability to stay standing or to at least get people off of him. He's got that win over Carlos Ulberg, who we saw, kind of have a not kind of, but have a pretty good fight this past weekend. He does have the loss to Da Ong Jung from standing elbows, and he has the split decision loss to Nikolai Negomagarianu. But I think I don't know if we're going to see the elbows flying from Jan Kutalaba. I think he's more of the brawler to the fullest, the fullest meaning of that word and that fighting style. So I think Kennedy's just going to be more technical. He's going to have the reach advantage. He's going to try and keep it standing. I think that's ultimately where the fight is going to take place. And for that reason, I'm going to go with Kennedy Nizichukwu. I don't think Jan Kutalaba against somebody who can keep the fight standing and is well-rounded, not well-rounded, but, has a grappling game of their own. I think in order for Jan Kutalaba to win, it has to be exclusively a ground game, exclusively a grappling battle, tie-ups, clinch, more of like a brawling where they're throwing punches up against the fence or on the ground, like it was with Ryan Clark, or Devin Clark, sorry. So for all of that, I'm going with Kennedy Nizichukwu. I don't think Jan's going to be able to bully him in the same way that Jan has in his previous wins, and Kennedy Nizichukwu is the pick.
Yeah, it's the smart pick. It's not the pick I want because I don't like Kennedy Nizichukwu. He bores me sometimes, but whatever. Next up, main event, final fight: Derrick Lewis versus Sergey Spivak. This is loser go home for Derrick Lewis, or loser goes home. It's win or go home because Derrick Lewis at this point he's fallen off big time. At least I think so. He's on a little bit of a skid here. Also, Sergey Pavlovich, bit of a newcomer. Tai Tuivasa, Cyril Gane. I mean, that's justifiable. In the Thai fight, I think he just kind of gave up, and which potentially leads me to believe that maybe like Derrick Lewis, maybe he just doesn't have it or doesn't want to do it anymore. He's made those pushes. He's still, like we were talking about before, prize fighter. And I don't mean to speculate too much on this guy, but he is getting a little bit up there. He's 37 years old now. Sergey Spivak, he's got 10 years junior to Derrick Lewis. And you can see that Sergey Spivak goes out there in every fight and wants to win. I think there's been a little bit of like resignation from Derrick Lewis in some of his more recent fights. Sergey Spivak, he can do it on his feet. He can do it on the ground. I think the game plan here is to don't telegraph it. Don't fall into the Curtis Blades trap of like really making it known you're going for, a takedown, because you could easily still end up asleep with that Derrick Lewis uppercut. But I think the game plan is probably get in there, maybe clinch and then go for a take. I don't know. I mean, I think I'm no coach, but Sergey Spivak, I think, is going to end up on the ground with Derrick Lewis, and then either KO, TKO, type victory, or maybe end this one by submission. He's definitely the better grappler out of these two guys. I'm going with Sergey Spivak, though. Just more methods of victory. 5-round fight. Sergey Spivak, have we really seen his gas tank? No, right? Most of his stuff's been ending, before the distance. And this might be his first 5-round fight.
I mean, he went the distance with Alexei Olenek.
Right.
3 rounds. So, we haven't seen him go 5 rounds. We haven't seen Derrick Lewis go 5 rounds in quite some time, if ever.
Yeah.
Oh, the other Sergey we were thinking about was Sergey Pavlovich, who Derrick Lewis had a brutal knockout to in his last time out. I think the question here is ultimately because Sergey Spivak has had a little bit more of the questionable competition, and his wins are over guys like Augusto Sakai, who's I don't believe in the UFC anymore, Greg Hardy, who I know is in the UFC, lost to Tom Aspinall, but has the win over Alexei Olenek, who's no longer in the UFC, and then Jared Vanderaa, who we can both agree probably shouldn't be in the UFC. So the wins and the competition level is not there for Sergey Spivak. However, the style is his ability to go over there, get the fight to the ground, and be able to do the ground and pound and controlling style. Maybe lock up a submission. That's all there for Sergey Spivak. But is he going to be able to do that on a caliber opponent like Derrick Lewis? The questions for Derrick Lewis are how bought in is he to still remaining a fighter? And we've seen him joke probably for a lot of his career, but definitely the last 3, 4, 5 fights. He's like, I don't really love MMA. I just do it. And I knock people out. So my concern for Derrick Lewis is if he gets into a compromising position with Sergey Spivak, how much energy and willpower is he going to have to really try to fight out of that? And for that reason, I think if Sergey Spivak can get this fight to the ground at 27, 28 years old with a career in front of him and, 4-1 over his last 5 over UFC caliber opponents, I think Sergey Spivak is going to get the win there. Ultimately, there is always that wild card of Derrick Lewis being able to catch somebody with that power. The power is the last thing to go. Right, so it's always going to remain, but I think the safer pick and maybe the smarter pick is Sergey Spivak getting this fight to the ground into a grappling contest away from the power of Derrick Lewis. Maybe using some length, shoot those, do the leg kicks so that Lewis doesn't have the power to plant off of when you go. And 1-2 leg kick takedown, I think potentially could be that path to victory. Or trying to move forward against Derrick Lewis, being careful of the punches coming back, but back him up to a cage, and then fake something and then come in. It's all going to depend on the timing and the speed of those takedown attempts by Sergey Spivak. But if he can get it to the ground, I think it's his fight to lose. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with Sergey Spivak here.
Put the words right out of my mouth. I'm going with you on Sergey Spivak as well. But anytime Derrick Lewis steps into the octagon, I will sprinkle a little bit on him to win by knockout. That's just how it goes. And especially when he's a dog, it's probably like plus 350 or something. All right. So it's time for our pick rundown. All right.
Here we go.
For my prelim notable, I am going with Vanessa Demopoulos over Maria Oliveira. And for the main card, Jack Della Maddalena over Danny Roberts, Cody Brundage over Adolfo Vieira, Andre Fiallo over Salikov, Waldo Cortez Acosta over Jay Sherman, Kennedy Nzechukwu, I don't know why I said that weird, Jan Kulava over Jan Kulava, and Sergey Spivak over Derrick Lewis. All right, Tom, what do you got?
All right, I'm going to do it real quick because the call is hitting this morning. Going to go with the risky pick of Ricky Tercios over Kevin Feliz Navidad. When we go up to the main card, I'm going with Jake Della Maddalena. I feel confident in that one win over Danny Roberts. Adolfo Vieira, I think, is going to have a ground game advantage against Cody Brundage. You're going to get the decision there. Muslim Salikov, I think, is going to lose to Andre Fiallo. Chase Sherman is going to lose to Waldo Cortez Acosta, but who knows at 265 with that level of competition. Kennedy Nzechukwu, I think, is going to get it done over Jan Kulava. Derrick Lewis, I think, is going to lose a ground battle, ground and pound to Sergey Spivak. And that's where I fall on UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Spivak.
All right. Like, comment, subscribe. Going to run through this fast. Tom, thanks for being here. Everybody that was here before. Rogue Strummer, thank you for all of your nice comments. All the stuff that we said about following before, all that stuff. There we go. Catch you later, Rogue Strummer. All right. We'll cut this out. We'll finish this up real quick for you, Tom. Thanks for being here. All the people at home, thanks for watching. And have a great Monday. Crush this week. See ya.